Yo, so I was sitting up and I had a thought. What are the best teams to never win an NBA championship? If you watch Hoops and Brews, you know how I think. You know I don't always think the best teams win a championship every single year. So many things go into winning a championship. It's not just about the talent on the court. You know, there's matchups, injuries can happen. So many things can happen. So, since 1990, disclaimer, post 1990, what are the best teams to never win an NBA championship? Let me know what you guys think. Drop something in the comments. Tell me if you think my list is good. If you think my list is bad, let me know. Tell me what you think. But starting off at number 10, we have the 2004-2005 Phoenix Suns, who ended up going 62-20. This was the first of Steve Nash's back-to-back MVP seasons. Legendary team. They had Amari, they had Sean Marion, they had Joe Johnson. They ended up losing in the Western Conference Finals. Joe Johnson did get hurt in that series, but again, if that team is 1,000% healthy, we don't know what that team does. Maybe they beat the Spurs in that Conference Finals series if Joe Johnson isn't hurt. I'm pretty sure. I think it was a broken bone in his face. Maybe that happens. We don't know. Regardless, that team is still legendary. And they kind of set the tone for a lot of things that you see today. So at number 10, I have the 2004-2005 Phoenix Suns. At number 9, I have the 2004-2005 Indiana Pacers. They ended up going 44-38. If you guys remember, that was the team that was involved in the Malice in the Palace. That Pacers team won 60 games a year before. They added Stack Jack, so they added a 20-point scorer basically to a team that already had won 60 games. That was Reggie Miller's last season. They had Ron Artest, they had Jermaine O'Neal. That team was stacked top to bottom. Obviously, they get to the Malice in the Palace. Ron Artest gets suspended for the whole year. Jermaine O'Neal gets suspended, I don't know how many games. Steven Jackson gets suspended, I don't know how many games. They end up, trading some people away, basically kind of reshifting the whole team. But yeah, we don't know what that team could have done had that fight not happened. I still think to this day Ron Artest might have an MVP. But if you look at his stats from that first 9 or so games before that fight, and the finals in 2004-2005 very well could have been Spurs Pacers, and the Pacers could have captured their first NBA championship had that fight not happened. Number 8, I have the 2001-2002 Sacramento Kings. They went 61-21. They ended up losing to the Lakers in the conference finals. It would have been Kings Nets in the finals. Obviously, if it's Kings Nets in the finals, I think that the Kings very well could have captured their first NBA championship in God knows how long. That team had Chris Webber, they had Vlade Divac, they had Mike Bibby, Doug Christie, Hedo Turkoglu, Peja Stojakovic. They actually played the game the way a lot of teams play the game of basketball today. It's a very free-moving style of basketball. They probably had two of the best passing bigs, honestly, ever, in Chris Webber and Vlade Divac on the court at the same time. They just ran up against Shaq and Kobe. It's unfortunate. Robert Horry also had the crazy tip-back shot at the end of Game 5 in the conference finals. If they win that game, who knows what happens. The Kings could have very well gone on to win their first NBA championship in God knows how long. At number 7, I have the 2010-2011 Miami Heat. They went 58-24. That's the first year of the Big Three. They ended up losing to Dallas in 6 in the finals. Honestly, I still think they should have won that series if LeBron James didn't forget how to play basketball mid-season. Well, mid-series. Dirk caught the Holy Ghost. Again, that Heat team very well could have three-peated again if LeBron James didn't forget how to play basketball and if Dirk didn't catch the Holy Ghost. It encapsulated a crazy year, with the Heat, with LeBron going up there and saying not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. When he joined that team, everybody kind of assumed that they was gonna kind of run through the league and win. I don't know, God knows how many championships. But Dirk and the Mavericks put a stop to that. So at number 7 on my list, I have the 2010-2011 Miami Heat. At number 6 on my list, I have the 97-98 Utah Jazz. They went 62-20. If you guys watched the Last Dance documentary, you guys have seen the footage. They pretty much had the Bulls dead in the water. Scottie Pippen's back was dead. Ron Harper was ailing. Jordan was older. at that point in time. You still had 2 Hall of Famers. You had Malone coming off his MVP season. You had John Stockton, who's been consistent for, at that point, 15 years in the league. They had just swept the Lakers in the conference finals. I think this was Utah's probably best shot, all things considered, to capture an NBA championship. They didn't get it done. But again, still a great team. You have Jeff Hornacek, who people forget was also a 20-point per game scorer in Phoenix earlier on in his career. You had Byron Russell, a solid two-way guard. You also had Ostertag. They had a very, very deep Austin Carr coming off the bench, Howard Isley. They had a very, very deep team. They couldn't get it done, but they just ran up against Michael Jordan. No shame in that. So, yeah, number 6 on my list, I have the 97-98 Utah Jazz. At number 5 on my list, I have the 95-96 Seattle SuperSonics, who ended up going 64-18. Just ran into the 72-10 Bulls. At that point in time, the Seattle SuperSonics also had one of the best records in league history. They just happened to play the 72-10 Chicago Bulls. Gary Payton has also mentioned that he had a torn calf muscle in that series. Who knows how that series turns out if Gary Payton goes into that series healthy. Remember, they had switched GP on to Michael Jordan after the first 3 games, and the Sonics went on to capture the next 2 games, push it to 6. Jordan captured his 4th ring on Father's Day. But again, if the Sonics come into that series healthy, who knows what happens. And yeah, if they just don't run into Michael Jordan. They ran into Michael Jordan and they lost to, at that point in time, the best team in NBA history, and a team that I would still consider the best team in NBA history. Not record-wise, obviously, because a team that we'll get into later had a better regular season record. But all things considered, I think the best team, they just ran into the best team in NBA history. But again, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Hersey Hawkins, Dallas Shrimp was on that team. They had a squad. At number 4, I have the 1992-1993 Phoenix Suns, who went 62-20, and again ran into guess who? Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But this was a year in which I think Charles Barkley, outside of Michael Jordan, was the best player in the world. He also had Kevin Johnson. He also had Thunder Dan Marley. So they had a very, very solid team. Like this Phoenix team was deep and good. Without Chuck, you had Chuck, and they become one of the best teams in the league, which they were for that year. Chuck won MVP that year again. They just ran into Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan scored 55 in the finals game. Like, what you gonna do with Jordan score 55, bro? Like, there's nothing that you can really do about that. So yeah, they just ran into Michael Jordan. Like a lot of teams in the 90s, a lot of these great teams just ran into a better team. They ran into the Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Nothing you can really do about that, say about that. There's no shame in losing to Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But yeah, the Phoenix Suns come in at number 4 on my list. Moving on, number 3 on my list, I have the 2017-2018 Houston Rockets. They went 65-17. You guys know how I feel about this team if you watch Hoops and Brews at all. They lost to the Warriors, which is a team that many would consider one of the best teams in NBA history. The team of the 2010s, and it took them missing 28 or however many threes it was to do it, and they still only lost by 6 points. Chris Paul got hurt in that series as well. Who knows what happens if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt? Maybe they don't lose. Maybe they don't miss that many threes because they have their mid-range, shooter, their mid-range scorer. Also, some of those attempts are probably more open if Chris Paul doesn't go down. But yeah, this is Harden's MVP year. And yeah, I think this was some of the best basketball that any team has ever played. This was the best record in franchise history. And yeah, I still think Chris Paul going down at the end of Game 5 is one of the biggest, what ifs, I think, in NBA history. If that doesn't happen, who knows what happens in Game 6? Who knows what happens in Game 7? But obviously what happened is they missed 28 threes and they lost the game. So, yeah. But they come in at my number 3 on my list, the 2017-2018 Houston Rockets. At number 2 on my list, I actually have the 96-97 Utah Jazz that ended up going 64-18. I think this Jazz team was better than the Jazz team the next year. Obviously, the Jazz team next year was a year older, but this is Malone's MVP year. If I'm not mistaken, the Jazz were first in offense this year. So the Jazz were rolling. Like, the Jazz were a powerhouse. They had it, tied 2-2 going into the flu game against Michael Jordan, and Jordan has the iconic flu game flu game, whatever it was. He says food poisoning, the food poisoning game, not the flu game. But yeah, I think that this Jazz team was even better than the Jazz team that reached the finals the year after. They went through I don't want to say a team, but a very well put together team in Houston. You know, they had Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler. They went through that team and ended up facing the Bulls. And again, another story is they just lost to Michael Jordan and the Bulls, like everybody else pretty much for the most part did in the 90s. But yeah, the 96-97 Utah Jazz come in at number 2 on my list. And number 1, I think everybody knows what the team is, the 73-9 Warriors, the 2015-2016 Warriors, the best regular season team in NBA history. Lost a 3-1 lead in the finals, did something that's never been done before. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving went superhuman in Game 5. Game 4, Draymond has the infamous nut tap, gets suspended. Like I said, Kyrie and Bron go for back-to-back 41s in Game 5. Game 6, Steph throws his mouthpiece. Draymond comes back. They still lose Game 6, and in Game 7, it's probably one of the best basketball games I've ever seen. You had 3 of, when you look at most iconic finals plays, you had 3 of the most finals iconic plays, basically in succession. You had block, you had Kyrie's shot, and then you had Kevin Love's stop in succession to bring, the Cavs captured their first ring for the city of Cleveland in 50-something years. The Warriors go home empty-handed after having basically the best season in basketball history. Steph wins unanimous MVP, and they go home empty-handed. The Warriors come in at number 1 on my list, the 73-9 Warriors, losing a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. So that's my list, guys. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you don't agree. If you don't agree, let me know why. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video. And it's been my list. Talk to you guys later.